If you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, the approval of the agenda, we have a change that I'd like to recommend through council. We need to have an executive session for our litigation. So we will go into an executive session. You want to do it after the public comment, or?
I would do it right now.
Okay. Do I hear? So we're going to add executive session before public comment, and our executive session is due to litigation, and will be for how long? Do we need 15, 20, 30 minutes? 20 minutes, okay.
For point of order, you haven't approved the agenda yet.
We're changing the agenda.
You haven't approved the change.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I think you're, I'm sorry.
It's a point of order, you have to approve the agenda and vote on it to approve it. And then if you
We're
do-
going to make a change in the agenda. We're going to go into executive session. Do I hear?
I make a motion to change that. Make first motion.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. So Bonnie and Richard, we just are going to have to go into executive session for 20 minutes. So we're going to, okay, so we're going to ask everybody to be removed so we can go into an executive
Oh, you can
session.
actually have that right here.
Yes. Are we ready to go? Next is our public comment.
Approval of the agenda.
Well, we did do the approval of
that's
the
right.
agenda.
That's
Yes.
right. Sorry.
And then we
Yes. Regular meeting called back to order?
A point of order, were there any decisions made in executive session?
No. We had given our, we've given it to our council, discussed with our council.
That's it.
Okay. Public comment, please keep your public comments to 3 minutes. And I might add too that we've gone through a class about public comment. There's a lot of things that we've allowed that are not necessary, so just to let you all know. So you have 3 minutes. Did you want to speak?
Well, first of all, what did you discover?
Go ahead, it's public, we're going to discuss that.
Might be nice to discuss it before we vote about it.
No, go ahead.
Is there a procedure for like talking to the camera or something? Okay, good. Yeah, they're a pretty good place to start. Hi, Greg Carey, live out in Tahuya, used to own property in Allyn. A couple things. One, I want it on record that the Port of Allyn now has been reserved the December 2021 lawsuit pertaining to Public Records Act violations, Open Public Meeting Act violations, and disparagement, civil rights violations, and RCW 53-08040. Specifically, the misappropriation of public funds where the port's using taxpayer money to subsidize the ratepayers' connection fees and monthly usage fees. Okay. That lawsuit was served. It was previously served with Port Council back in December of 2021, and the emails support that. But just to make sure that the port has notice, it's been now reserved. Secondly, a second lawsuit was filed against the Port of Allyn, and this one included not only the Port of Allyn, but also Commissioners John Sheridan and Judy Scott as people violating the Open Public Meetings Act. That lawsuit was filed in May and has been now served on all 3 parties. That was effectuated here prior to the meeting. Lastly, that complaint was amended last week.
You have 30 seconds.
That lawsuit was amended last week and now has also been served on all 3 parties as well prior to tonight's meeting being started. Okay, what else? I guess that's really basically it. It should be noted, though, that during the process, the port attempted to disrupt that service process and John Sheridan actually stood up and walked over towards me after I asked him to please sit down and back away, and you refused. So I want that noted in the minutes, please. Thank you guys for your time. Oh, by the way, I think the new public comment policy is probably flawed, and you might want to reconsider making some changes to it. I can tell you what they are if you want me to continue.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Public comment? Ken, if you would stand and state your name. Where you live.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. For the record, Ken Van Buskirk. I live on Davis Farm Road. Before you approve the vouchers for Sound Urban Forestry for an additional $700, I would ask that you rescind Mr. Cappola's no trespass order against me and apologize this evening. When I flagged those hazard trees, I found more trees than the arborist has to date, and I would like to review his report on the ground to make sure and document the ones that he's missed. Did the port pay him to identify hazard trees on the Peterson parcel?
Go ahead.
Do I have the time? Is it all right?
Go ahead.
If so, that would have the appearance of a gifting of public funds. Please recall, I didn't create the liabilities. I reported them to you 3 months ago when I found the cedar tree with an undercut and a wedge in it, and it's still standing. I offered to mitigate it myself. In Mr. Cappola's executive report, he says he wants to thank me about pointing out his lack of accountability and responsibility. He's not sincere and he's not thankful. He's not being truthful. You heard him at that last meeting. How did I know that the trees were still standing? You could see him from the road, and he knew that. Please investigate this entire matter and document his performance. I've asked you to call me, to discuss this with me, to walk the property with me, to show you the additional liabilities that I have discovered. And to date, only Mr. Brogan and Commissioner Jackson have even talked to me. What are you other commissioners afraid of? Falling out of grace with a certain individual? Public comment policy. This is a common sense policy that you should have been doing all along. Mr. Cappola's focus in the executive director's report is on the blatant abuse of public comment by the public.
You have 30 seconds.
Public comment is a two-way street. I recall several times when I have commented both pre and post Zoom that members of your board, members of your staff, and members of the public have interrupted me or tried to dialogue with me. I think it's an appropriate policy to adopt, and I believe you should amend the draft policy to continue public comment both at the beginning and the end of the meeting,
Your time is up.
as it currently is only one place.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you. I guess I can talk at the end of the meeting if I have more to say.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just got to get my 2 cents in.
And state your name and where you live.
I'm Bonnie Knight and I live in Allyn.
Okay.
I read the draft document for the public comment. I think it's way past due. I'm really glad that you're putting it in writing, that you've had counsel on it. Some might decide there needs to be a minor tweak, but I think overall it's really a good policy, and I appreciate that. Just comment at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll hold the rest of it to then.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody else? Oh, thank you,
Oh.
Jeff. I couldn't see your hand. Thank you. You're muted, I think? Can't hear you. Diedrich, do you know how we can? Can you hear us? Yeah. Hang on. technical difficulty.
Yeah, the sound was supposed to be.
Hang on, Jeff.
Pretty loud. 60s.
Infinite is next. Sorry, everybody, this is our first hybrid. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Do you want to mute that one and have me turn my sound up? Let's try that. How's that? How's that? We still got the feedback. I'll turn my sound back on. Was there anybody else in here who wants to
Yes,
talk?
Phil Wolf.
Oh, well, I meant that's in the meeting.
Oh,
Maybe
no,
we
I don't
could
think
be
so. I
doing
didn't
that
see
one.
anybody else that wanted to speak.
Okay.
Bonnie?
I just want to make one really happy.
We did a dry run of all this morning, but we didn't have anybody zooming in, so we didn't. No, we had no way to test it.
Jeff, can you hear us now? Can we hear you yet?
You can bring it through them. If you could do that.
So, you can hear us, but
Is he muted?
Can we try anybody else on Zoom to see if it's just his end, or a combination of go to Phil and still can you hear us?
Well, we could try that,
You know, just start troubleshooting.
but I don't see that he's muted.
Yeah, he is unmuted.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
well, I can reach out to speaker, but you guys want to talk on speaker? Hey, Joe?
Yeah, let's see. Larry, do you just ask a question?
If you unmute, just talk to your
Hey, Joe?
If I do what?
If you unmute,
If I unmute, okay, hold on.
You want to talk on speaker or not?
We may have to, but we'll see if this works. Just so.
Am I muted? No, I'm unmuted.
your sound is up. Turn your sound up.
Turn my sound back up. Here we go.
Hear me okay?
Here we go.
It's just so we get some.
You can't talk.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Did you say go ahead, Judy?
Yes.
Okay. About 3 points for public comment period. One is, I was looking at the public comment policy, and to me, it's in the, going in the right direction of what we need. The only concern I have is that somewhere in the process, the commission needs to be able to engage or dialogue with the public, and I don't have any problem not being at the public, in the public comment policy portion, but like when you're adopting a resolution and you want public input, it seemed like there needs to be if I make a comment, I hope that's not the only time we can ever comment about or talk about it or engage in it further down the road. As far as, I'm not saying there's an issue with this policy other than I see an issue where the public can't communicate easily with the commission. That's my concern on that issue. On another separate point, my dad, Harold Carey, called me, let me know that he could not make tonight's meeting, but he wanted to make sure, one, that the commission had received his emails regarding evaluation processes of the commission, and that the commission at some point here looks into evaluating, and so the public knows what they're getting is what he phrased to me, and wants to see that done at some point in time in the near future. Third point, dealing with the expenses and revenues and stuff like that. And I don't need an answer tonight. You can answer this later. But I saw, which was great, I saw a revenue on the gazebo being about 40% over the normal, what you'd planned, which is great. Is that accurate? One. Two, dealing on the expense side, I saw that our travel, with only half the year up, is about, at 100% or 114%. I saw also that the pay station lease, and maybe there's something that's changed, but it's showing like about 160% of what you budgeted. It's not a big deal, but to me, it just, we need to budget more accurately if we can. If there's something that's been added or something to inform me about, that'd be great. And third and last is, I noticed one of the commissioners is up to 83% of the yearly budget, and we're only halfway through the year. Again, there's probably a logical reason for it, but I'd like to know at some point. And that's it for my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, next would be Phil.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, 3 minutes, and can you say?
Okay, just real quick. Is this the appropriate time to ask about the hazard trees, or would that be later in the meeting?
Probably later.
So I missed that. Later?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all I have.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I've muted myself again here.
Okay. Anybody else out there? Barry? No? Okay, consent agenda items. The approval of the regular meeting minutes for May 2nd. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Action items, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. I have reviewed all the vouchers. Thank you, Larry and Leanne. So I'll make an action item. Payment of general fund vouchers 22-060-1001 to 22-060-1030 for $20,151.10. Payment of payroll vouchers number 22-060-2001 to 22-60-2010 for $22,289, or excuse me, $289.22. Payment of water fund vouchers 22-060-3001 to 22-060-3005 for $1,825.88. And approval of action item D, allowing the use of digital signatures on all documents approved at this meeting. One question on that: since we're all here, do we need to use the digital signature, or is that a pay per use, or is that just a subscription?
I didn't understand your question.
Is that a pay for per use, or is that a subscription fee?
It's a subscription.
That's
It's
right.
part of our
I just-
Adobe Acrobat subscription.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, commissioner reports.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I attended the general meeting, and then I attended the PTO meeting, and there are some things I forwarded off to executive director regarding the PTO. There's a class, I don't know if it was forwarded to the other commissioners, but there is a class at 10 o'clock from 11:30 for EV charging station. I have signed up. I might have a conflict towards the beginning, but I have signed up and I'll be listening to it. And then there's also some funds for development. And that's something I believe we would have to work with the county and WashDOT, and we've talked about, and this is highway or street, but we have talked about sidewalks in Allyn, and there are funds available for that. And I did forward right before I came down to the executive director a Washington Transportation Public Works Fund low interest loan. So I'm sure that would be forward.
Great.
Oh, last thing is that I attended the Memorial Day service, and we had a wonderful turnout. In the 25 years we've been here, I've never seen it so many people at the turnout. It was well done, and kudos to Richard Bell and all the veterans that stood up and spoke. It was kind of tough to hear some of the life events that they went through during the war, but it was very well done. I can't thank the Allyn Community Association. They really knocked it out of the park. So,
Thank you, Tim. John, do you have anything?
Yeah, so on the 2nd of May, I attended the Port of Mountain regular meeting. On the 4th and the 6th, spring meeting. And on the 17th of May is the Mason Transit Authority Board. Did that. And a cool part of that board meeting was talking and following up with a couple of the other board members. We did a nice letter for Mr. Wojtowicz. I didn't know him, but from what they've all shared with me, he did phenomenal things. It's one of those, maybe for some people it wasn't a quiet voice, but I've talked to a lot of people who've been around a long time and they didn't know him. So it's amazing what good things people do that make no noise about it whatsoever. They just do things for the community. It's totally selfless, and that's how I saw this. And so we did a nice board letter for the family to recognize that kind of service. And then on Memorial Day weekend, I ride with Combat Vet Buddies, and we had 125 plus bikes ride and do the Unforgotten Run from the Orchard, Kitsap County Court Building to Tahoma out to there. And we got a state patrol police escort, local sheriff's escort. It was huge. It was just beautiful. So that's been the last month.
That's great. Thank you. Well, mine was a regular port meeting, the Washington Public Ports Association spring meeting, and Oyster House meeting. A little update, I've been trying to get a hold of somebody to do our windows. Still haven't found anybody yet, but I'm working on it. And then on May 26th, went to Jurassic Parliamentary Workshop, which was instrumental in our public comment policy. Was really helpful. Learned a lot about it. Ann McFarland she was the teacher. She's been at this for 20 years at least. And I've gone to some of her workshops before, probably about 15 years ago. She was great. And Mark Wojtowicz, he was the guy that was our videographer for the Oyster House, opening the Sargent Oyster House. And I had the privilege of him visiting me about a week and a half before he passed away suddenly, and because he was doing cleanups in the forest, and he got trash mash or something like that, but he was really enthused about getting the forest clean up, and he did so much work, as most of you know. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And like you said, you're just quiet about it, just doing his job. He even shared he was starting to write another book, and so our condolences to his wife, Linda, and he's going to be sorely missed. Okay, Travis, Security Officers Report. You're next.
Travis Merrill, Port Security Advisor. and officer at times when need be. Had a slight amount of time I was out of town this month. Dawn took over for that. No incidents to report during that time. Got a call from Earl Eddings, the property owner adjacent to the North Shore boat ramp, concerned about somebody who looked intoxicated and was throwing trash about. Told him I couldn't get down there right away, but told him if they were intoxicated and they were littering, to please call the sheriffs. That sounds like crime. And he said, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." And I didn't hear anything else about it. So I inspected the property a few hours later and found no trash about. Towards the end of the month, on the 29th, we have adopted a no tolerance policy for vehicles parked behind the gates when I lock them. And we had a vehicle that may or may not have been dumped. Haven't heard anything from the office on whether somebody called about their missing vehicle after I towed it. It had a breathalyzer unit in it, and it looked quite, it looked mostly used, like it wasn't like a dump car. I mean, it was clean enough, but it was a Ford F-150 pickup truck. I attempted to roust anyone on the boat and the pier to make sure that it wasn't theirs, and even went and did my North Shore patrol and came back before I actually towed the vehicle to lock up for the night. I did everything I could to see if the owner would finally show up. Other than that, everything's pretty peachy.
Good. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, next on the agenda is Executive Director's Report. Larry?
Okay. Financial issues, revenues and expenses are performing as expected for this time of year and in this economy. We have bookings for almost every weekend between now and Labor Day for the gazebo. However, moorage appears to have fallen off quite a bit, which we attribute to the cost of fuel. This month's budget versus actual reports included in your meeting packet. I'd like to comment on Mr. Carey's comment about the pay station expense. We added a pay station, if you recall, out at the North Shore, and we did that after we had done the budget. So that's why that, and it's the pay station is just one line item, pay station lease. Document management. An email to me this past Thursday, Commissioner Jackson asked we review copies of invoices for the water system and payroll. Until we went to Zoom meetings because of COVID, we always provided hard copies of all invoices for the general fund and water fund and attached them to the voucher reports. There are no invoices for payroll, but we print copies of the individual paychecks for staff, attach them to the payroll voucher sheet. They show the base pay, taxes, retirement, accrued vacation, and sick time for each individual. Before Zoom meetings, the commissioners signed the voucher sheets for each fund at the meeting after they were approved. Rather than have one of us chase you all down the day after the Zoom meeting, is why we went to electronic signatures, which save both staff time and mileage costs. However, the printed versions of all the materials are always available to you here in the office to review as they are filed with the voucher reports each month. Excuse me, each month. And going back to in-person meetings this month, we've returned to the practice of attaching the individual paperwork to the voucher reports you sign. So, water system issues. I have sent in everything required to the Mason County Commissioners to make a decision on our ARPA funds request for the balance of the new well funding. We'll have bid specs for the new well and booster station coming this week. So, or this coming week, pardon me. So we can get this out to bid sometime next week. Our goal is to have the well up and running by year's end. Something we need to take a serious look at is creating a master plan for the water system build out over the next 5 years or so. We have an outdated map showing the water lines, but a lot's been added since that map was done. It just makes sense for us to put together a master plan before we go too much further, especially with the new well moving forward. It's on your agenda for discussion tonight. What we have is, pictures of where the lines are on a map, but we need to have something that's a little more detailed. Housing Kitsap's planning on an additional 12 units to the adjacent 12 they're going to start shortly. Developer recently contacted me about the other 12 adjacent to those. We received a sign-off from the Department of Health this past Wednesday on the temporary variance for the sewer line needed for the possible acquisition of Jeff Carey's water system. It needs to be incorporated into the engineering, but at least now we have a path forward. Jeff has sent me some deal parameters, which I forwarded on to Joe Brogan for review. He's made some comments and suggested the three of us meet and go through those. So hopefully we can all get together Thursday. Once that's done, I'll meet with both Aspect Consulting and Northwest Water about doing everything to tie all this together and get moving. However, we haven't really talked money with Jeff while waiting on the sewer line decision because it impacted the structure of the deal. But he and I will sit down and start hammering this out shortly. Public comment policy. At the recent WPPA meeting, one of the more interesting roundtable discussions was the blatant abuse of public comment periods during meetings. Not just our meetings, everybody's meetings, apparently. It's not unique to us that there are members of the public who believe the time limits on public comment don't apply to them and who refuse to adhere to it, as well as those that believe public comment is a Q&A session. Now that we're back to in-person meetings, WPPA suggests we consider establishing a public comment policy, which we've not had previously. I drafted a potential policy for you to consider based on information from the WPPA seminar, MRSC, Jurassic Parliament, as well as input from other ports. It's on your agenda for discussion and possible action. It's also Resolution 2022-008 on the agenda should you decide to adopt the draft policy. Damage claims. I turned the claim into Honduras for the storm damage for the finger pier. Honduras accepted and paid both claims minus our $1,000 deductible for each one. But as you remember, we sold the scrap copper from the last attempted theft for enough to cover all but less than $100 of our deductible for both claims. We also sold some scrap from the first theft that thieves left behind, so we've more than covered the deductible for both claims. There's a stainless steel junction box out on the pier, and we planned on securing it with double deadbolts instead of just a padlock. But in the end, that wasn't doable. We did find a stainless steel hasp and specialty lock setup that will be inaccessible to potential thieves. The only reason we couldn't just weld it shut is because there are splices inside the box. They have to be accessible according to National Electric Code. Security camera issues. Some of the new cameras and equipment have been installed at the North Shore and are up and running, as is the one here in Allyn. However, the two multi-sensor units have become a major problem. The vendor notified us they can't get them. He's researching other units with the same capabilities, but this isn't looking good at the moment either. All of this stuff is made in China, and manufacturing there is basically shut down due to COVID. What we may do is opt for smaller units, but more of them to cover what we need to look at. As soon as I learn more about this, I'll let you know. But I'm getting increasingly unhappy with the lack of response in the vendor. Asked Joe Brogan to give us some options, one of which may be having the cameras removed, refunding our money, and going with another vendor. But I got an email from him today explaining why he has not been in contact with us, and apparently he was quite ill for about 3 weeks. So, and he does have some suggestions about cameras, so I'll be talking with him this week as well. Redistricting, we have to come up with a plan for redistricting by November 1st. I don't expect we'll see a lot of changes, since my understanding district's population numbers are cut off December 31st, 2020. I reached out to the ports of Shelton and Dewato about possibly sharing a consultant. Shelton responded they elect commissioners at large, so no redistricting is necessary. Dewato informed me after they checked with the county auditor and were supposedly able to use the county GIS figures without a consultant. I've called into the county auditor to get a handle on this process as well, so we may be able to save some time and money if that'll work. Website updates, ironically, in spite of the complaints by a couple of individuals about our website, WPPA used it and gave it high praise. It's a positive example of how Port's website should work in one of its seminars at the recent spring meeting. Did have our webmaster install a large button on the opening page for 2022 meeting documents, hoping that'll make it easier for those people who are challenged finding them. Old business, Oyster House, nothing new to report on the building itself. After doing some research, the guy we're working with at Geoengineers confirmed we do have an Army Corps permit, but apparently Bill Ray combined our project with another he was working on at the time. Bonnie was part of that and has reached out to the other company to have them send her the Army Corps permit. Our goal is to have everything ready so we can get this out to bid and be able to drive pilings during this year's fish window. Our guy at Geoengineers also noted our hydraulic project approval permit for the project from Fish and Wildlife's expired, so I asked him to get it renewed, get one for Hood Canal as well. Bonnie was the original applicant on the Allyn permit, so she contacted Fish and Wildlife, changed it over, so I'm now named as the contact person. Our Hood Canal and Allyn facilities are in two different Fish and Wildlife districts, so Hood Canal will be a new permit, which should be issued shortly. Sweetwater Park. I walked the designated property last week with Mindy Harlow, Kathleen Barantos, the grant writer hired by the Salmon Center, and our RCO grant manager for the project. Our grant manager was extremely helpful in pointing out some of the things that will help get the project funded and rated higher for funding as well. I want to clarify the situation with the danger trees. As I reported last month, the arborist and myself miscommunicated on exactly what area needed to be surveyed. He understood just the park site while I expected the entire parcel. He took responsibility for the misunderstanding, went back and completed the survey on the entire property. He found a total of 36 trees on both the park site and the rest of the property need to either be removed or trimmed, and detailed them in his report to us. I've sent you all that report. I also like to clarify the confusion of the cutting of the trees, and in spite of his belief that I'm not being sincere, I wanted to thank Mr. Van Buskirk for bringing this to our attention. When I spoke with the tree cutter, he called me from the site and was looking to identify the trees marked by the arborist. He told me he'd be starting the cutting that day. When I asked how long it would take, he thought he'd be finished that same day, and I just assumed he was and reported that. Turns out he didn't cut anything, which I didn't find out until Mr. Van Buskirk raised the issue, and I was able to look into it. So it's just a miscommunication all the way around, and I haven't found out why he hasn't cut them all yet. I'll be walking the entire property with the tree cutter next week so we can identify all the trees the arborist marked. He's going to do the park site first so we can proceed with the cleanup and then do the rest at a later date. I apologize for the confusion, take responsibility for it, and learn not to assume things were done just because someone said they would be. As reported last month, I found out the Salmon Center will be closing on the Peterson property sometime in either this month or next, and was working with a volunteer organization to do the cleanup on that parcel. They're going to clean up ours as well. However, the person heading that up, Mark Wojtovich, passed away very unexpectedly, so the cleanup's up in the air right now. In walking the part site, there is debris that wasn't there previously, so we're working with the Salmon Center and exploring other options on our own for the cleanup as well. The property will remain closed to the public until the cleanup is finished. RCO has been made aware of the situation and what we're doing to deal with it. In spite of the protest of one person about accessibility to the property, RCO has agreed our actions are totally appropriate and acceptable to them. Kitsap Allports meeting, next meeting scheduled for July 21st at the Port of Brownsville. Port? No, Kitsap Allports is. We are trying to organize a Mason County Allports meeting as well. So we had tentatively set June 22nd, but that's not going to work for everybody, so we've got to reset it. But, and then criminalization of the marina rules, nothing new to report till we get the camera mess squared away. And that's my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so you already, do you have any questions?
Yes, I just have one, and Jeff Carey brought it up, and I'm sorry when I got the budget, I missed it, but I see that the payroll for the commissioners, Commissioner District 3, there's 00 on payroll, and the payroll tax is 00. So I don't know if that's being.
I would talk to the pay mistress.
Well, I would just want to clarify myself. I was just looking through it. I'm sorry. Yes.
I think it all goes back door behind the software, but I can call Bias
Okay.
and ask why that's like that.
Yeah,
And
I don't know
didn't
if they're
notice
including it in the other commissioners, the other two
I think it
districts.
is. I remember from budgeting. Doesn't that ring bells?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's why one commissioner's showing
So
80%.
high.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's
Oh,
when,
yeah.
yeah, that may be what it is.
when Mr. Carey brought it up, I went, oh, that doesn't,
Yeah, clicked a mental note for me to talk to Leanne about anyway.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Okay, items for new business, discussion of the adoption of the public comment policy. So, we have this policy that we had written out, and I'm assuming that everybody has had access to it via the web and have taken a look at it. I've looked at it. Gentlemen, have you looked at it as well? I did have one thing I just wanted to clarify, and that was, see, I didn't highlight this, so give me just a second here. Well, I was a little not concerned about whispering to each other, but refraining from checking electronic devices. Well, sometimes when I'm looking at stuff, I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that I'm not checking a game or anything like that.
Maybe we should just add the word personal devices in there.
Sure. I think that would be, I just want to make sure that everybody knows we're not just.
Yeah, the whole idea is to just be courteous to the audience.
Yeah.
And, not be, while someone's up there talking, doing this.
Yes.
Okay. As long as that's clear. Gentlemen, did you have any thoughts about it? Comments?
Yes, I think that we need to, you're talking about the public comment or just
Well,
the body?
the policy.
Yeah, no, I know that, but are you asking the body here or something? I guess obviously the body, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
The
so-
board right now.
The board, right. So I would like to see some language in here and addressing to keep things civil from the chairman's standpoint. Some of that language that we learned, that would be not only professional, but the courtesy, as far as who we are as a board, like the language that they use during the.
Oh, yes, right.
I'd like to see that put into it, into the policy.
Okay.
I mean, we go on about what that looks like, but we know that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
So that's what I'd like to see in here. So there's no surprise as part of public comment when it comes to how we're going to address things to kind of get on with things in a more civil way.
Okay.
That's all.
Do you want to change that now then?
Well,
or-
no, I would like us to table that and know, and I do an import totally. We can adopt this
Yeah,
and then amend it.
sure.
I'd like to do that.
Okay.
So unless there's further discussion.
Well, and actually, I think what you're addressing is what me, at least point, as the chair, should explain to the public
Yes.
what the criteria is
Yes.
and what the rules are for conversing and so really that's kind of up to the chair, I think. But this
Okay.
policy,
Fair enough.
I think, would be good, and especially the
All right.
fact that we do have what our commissioners, our duties are here. I think that
Yeah, I think
explains that well.
I think that's in the behavioral expectation
Oh.
expectations
And
of the
just-
Port Commission.
Okay, and then the language you choose to do that is.
Port
Yeah.
Commission
Okay, I
members
get it.
should
Okay.
respectfully listen to each person speaking as if there was no one else in the room.
Well, there's some stronger language that we use, but not in a negative way.
I was trying to be polite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but anyway, I'll make a motion for comment to adopt this public comment policy.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Resolution.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Okay, we need the adoption of the resolution, is what you
Okay,
need.
next is our resolution number 2022-008. Be it resolved by the Commissioners of the Port of Allyn as follows. The Board of Commissioners of the Port of Allyn have met, and after discussion and input from the public, oh, I guess we haven't done that yet, have we? Maybe I should do that. Do you want any comment from the public? Pardon? Well, in regard to this, I'm trying to be courteous. I will give you 2 minutes.
2?
Yes, and the reason is because there's other places that give 1 minute. So go ahead. And this is only in regard to the public.
Regarding the
comment.
public comment policy,
Okay?
these meetings are for you guys to get your business done. Get your business done. Once the business is out of the way, you can engage in public comment. On the other hand, if you choose to put public comment first, like you guys do, sometimes that's great, but these meetings are for you guys to get your business done. That's the primary objective of these meetings. Now, in public comment, when you open it up for public comment, which now state law requires you to do, they just passed that, it's important for you and the public to engage each other. On this policy, you guys talk about restricting what we can talk about. Well, that's why I read it. It says we will tell you what the subject matter will be. And what I'm saying is the public may have something else they've seen or interested in that they want to bring to the board's attention. Or they may be trying to get something out into the public's attention through the public meeting and the board. And so I think it's extremely important that you consider amending the public comment policy you just adopted and taking that word out that says that the board will determine the subject matter of what public comment can be about. Because that's basically violating, your free speech rights, which is, something the court's currently being sued for. And so I think it's really important that you look closely at that. And just because the WPPA puts it out doesn't make it right. And so if we saw what the WPPA did on their June 7th, 2021 meeting. So please consider amending that to take that type of wording out and make it a more friendly policy to the basically the boss, the taxpayers. And then I like what Larry put in there. I mean, if you guys show respect towards the public, which we're the boss, then we're more likely to show the commission respect, and it works well. The other way.
Time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes?
The way I read it is that we have public comment on any item. And at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. But when we're talking about a resolution or a discussion to adopt a resolution, that's the chairperson specific. We are going to direct all comments regarding that resolution, that specific topic. If I'm reading it wrong, but that's the way I read it.
Here it is right here. I circled it. You have public hearings too. Public hearings are a whole different animal. than
Yes,
public meetings.
we
That's
understand
correct.
that. Yeah.
So with regard to this wording right here, I'll read it if you like. The commission
No,
has-
we can go ahead and read it. That's all right. Thank you, though.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes. Right. Okay. Yes, Bonnie.
I agree with Mr. Carey in one way that, there's right and then there's laws. But I'm also old enough to know that the term right is subjective. Doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. If it's right for him, might not be right for me, or you, or Richard, or whoever's in the room. And I think that's when you have to fall back on the law. The letter of the law, you follow that and you will always be okay, because you don't have to decide who's right or who's wrong. The law defines what's right and what's wrong. And I think you stick close to that and you'll do really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, what he's talking about there, the Port Commission has a right to set limits on what subjects may be addressed, how long public comment will be, how many times people may speak. That's all just a process thing. As far as what you can talk about, we have never, to my knowledge, stopped anyone from talking about anything.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
and I think what this addresses is, we had a situation about litigation at one point, and our attorney advised us that it wasn't to be, discussed as, a discussion during the meeting. So, and that's all that was.
I saw Travis first.
This is new ground for me because I'm usually just here for my reports, but I actually have a public comment.
In regard to this?
Yes, in
Okay.
regard to this.
All right.
So if I get this right, you allow us to speak at the beginning of the meeting,
And the
say
end.
our concerns, and then when you bring up a motion, You allow us to speak for 2 minutes on our concerns on only that motion. And then at the end of the meeting, we get to speak again on anything we want. Correct?
Correct.
So our free speech is engaged at the beginning of the meeting, and then it is engaged only on the topics as we're allowed to go through the meeting, and then it is engaged at the end in free speech. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
this policy does call for just one public comment period at the end of the meeting,
Oh, well, we can change that.
if you want.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment after Travis. He pointed out that the policy that you're adopting has 2 sections to comment, beginning and end, but it doesn't. It only has one. That's what I brought up before. So I think before you adopt this, you should change that to 2 sessions.
Well,
Thank you.
I adopted it. I knew that there was a public comment. So that
No,
I understand.
the policy says only one.
Yeah, he understood that,
I
though.
understand. I'm saying that at the end, that's why I was okay with that. But we can go back and
So everybody agrees. Free speech at the first and last.
well,
Do you want to change that?
I don't want to change it because then we have a public comment at the end. It's getting abused the way it is. They can still get a chance to speak there, or whatever their choice is.
Kind of got it right.
Well, we,
Travis,
Travis got it right, too.
thank you.
Barry,
That's just how I understood it.
That's how it's been. That's correct. That's how it has been.
Hi, my name is Barry Betzinger. I live next door, and I'm not eloquent. But I see a very good municipal or port district here that is trying to do their best to do their job. There is nobody above scrutiny, absolutely. There always has to be public comment, absolutely. But just attending this one meeting, and I was only in a couple of Zoom meetings, but they are getting inundated with negative comments that take up a lot of their time, where they can't do their job, and we're paying them to do their job. Okay, it's almost, and as I listen here and see you laugh, you know, you're like a schoolyard bully. I mean, it's just apprehensible to me that we can't communicate anymore. Where did we lose that? I was in business for many years. I was in business for many years, and I had many adversaries. At Intel, anybody in the company can challenge you on what you're doing. But we still got our job done because we could communicate, okay? And Intel was very successful at doing that. I see the comments in the Shelton paper every week between certain individuals. It's like school kids, you know? They have to keep going, they have to have the last word, and I don't know, it's just, maybe I shouldn't be the one to laugh here, I guess, but anyway, it's very disturbing to me to see the actions that are going on, period. Thank you.
thank you, Barry. Yes. So do you want to change that to 2 public comments?
You can bring it back for discussion.
Okay.
I'd like to say just one.
Okay, do you have any objection to that? Yeah, Bonnie, go ahead. Yeah, no, you kept it pretty quick.
Okay, I'm curious as to why we have to have comment period at the beginning and the end.
It was as a courtesy, because we only have to have one public comment. And it was
Generally,
as a
we've always
courtesy.
had them at the end of the meeting. If you allow specific comments during discussion for your 2 minutes, that should meet the requirements of commenting on something for that meeting. Otherwise, it brings in all kinds of other crap before the meeting even starts.
Very well
So I
said,
think
yeah.
during the discussion of a specific thing, and then at the end, they can bring in general comments. But to have 3 times is, I think, not necessary.
Yeah, good.
For all of us sitting here.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Well, then I'm for not changing it. Let's keep it at 1.
My comment was mostly for clarification.
Yeah, well, thank you.
That's the way it was too, but in his resolution.
I motion for Bob.
Okay.
I work for a city where I sat through a lot of public meetings with the mayor, and we had one public comment at the end. And we noticed it wasn't fair to the citizens. And they could start off their 3 minutes voicing things that may have occurred, because we only meet once a month. In the city, we met twice. But the mayor decided to go to the 2 public comment, one at the end, one at the beginning, one at the end, to allow people to talk about what's occurred or what has maybe come up that the city council hasn't been made aware of. And even here, there's been people at the beginning of the meeting brought up things that I need to think about. But I like to do the beginning, end, and then talk about any resolution or any adoption that we have to make and allow for public comment. I've seen it work both ways, and the citizens were much happier. Not everybody spoke. Maybe one person got up and said, hey, we have an Eagle Scout troop, or Eagle Scout, can I get a round of applause? And that would be it. They wouldn't talk at the end. So, and I've been watching yours. Some people I know want to speak at the end, haven't spoken at the beginning. So
We could adopt this as one public meeting, but you realize that we can change the agenda anytime. So we can have public comment.
what I'm afraid of is that we're going to get to a point where, yes, everybody's correct, we're here to do our business, but we're going to get to a point where we're going to say, you get 3 minutes at this meeting, even though you've been sitting through it for an hour. But, we can't say, like it was brought up, we can't dictate the first public comment is going to be good for the order. People can talk about whatever they want to talk about.
So if I understand it correctly, Commissioner, you're suggesting with one public comment time, but in the beginning. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying we have one at the beginning, at the end. And
So we change it to 2.
that'd be up.
You good with that? No?
No, because not right now, I'm not, because we get a repeat from what happened at the beginning with some public comments, and we get to hear again at the end, the same public comment. Maybe it is good that, just the beginning of something.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
When I was mayor of Port Orchard, I instituted a second public comment at the beginning of the meeting. And what we found is people that would comment at the beginning of the meeting would also comment at the end, and the comments were usually pretty similar. They just got a second bite at the apple for whatever it was their particular axe to grind was. So.
Okay.
I think, before when we had meetings, if somebody had something specific they wanted to say, like Lions Club or something, you could say it more.
Yes, and that's
Putting out the
perfectly appropriate if you
Yeah.
have something to be put on the agenda.
Yeah.
But it should be a specific thing, not general. Like you said, hash.
Well, there's been a motion. You did second it, correct? Can't even remember now. It seems forever.
I did second it.
We did
Okay.
second that when we had
Well, I'm for the one public meeting, because again, at
One
the...
public
public comment, sorry. Because again, at the approval of the agenda, we can change it if we want to. If there's a topic that we need to deal with, then we can change it.
Absolutely.
I mean, this isn't written necessarily in stone. It's guidelines, it's policy, yes, but I will vote for the one public comment period.
Before you make a smart suggestion,
Sure.
you might just put it for a minimum,
Just for you.
a minimum of one public comment period per meeting, we can always add to it, so the agenda, we'll put the agenda each meeting. So it's-
When we do the public comment, there's a discussion here, it's not going to be for one person, it's for
No,
everybody.
minimum of one public comment period, because the law requires at least one
Correct.
minimum public comment period. So you can write up the policy, so at least one, minimum of one public comment.
It's already in here, so it's already done,
But a
so,
minimum. At least,
but we always are, anyway. Okay, so I would like to ask those in favor of this policy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Okay, so.
Opposed.
Okay. Motion passes, 2 yea, 1 nay. I better say resolution, excuse me, because I was looking at the policy, so let me clarify this, sorry about that. So it's the resolution, and there we go. It's now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners, after duly considering all relevant evidence and public testimony presented, hereby resolves to adopt the public comment policy as presented. So that's what I was asking for, if this is Resolution 22008. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Whew.
And just one, the Commissioner Jackson, you wanted to keep it where you had a comment at the beginning and end. That's what I know that we ended up passing it, but that was important to you.
Maybe I'm a stickler for policy, because once you write something in policy, if you deviate from policy or deviate from something right, I agree with what Mr. Carey said at the end. You know, if you just write minimum. But now we're on to different, we've already had the discussion, so.
All right.
Okay. Next is our discussion of the master planning for the water system. You know, I didn't, go ahead, Larry.
Just, what I wanted to do was just get you all to agree we need to do this.
Yeah, okay.
I'll take it from
You
there.
can
But,
sign. Okay.
but it's a case of, we don't want water lines going here, there, and everywhere. We want to know where they're going to go in advance, and we want to be able to plan that. That's the kind of thing we would coordinate with the county if they're going to be paving a road. We don't want to have to dig it up afterwards. We want to get in there before. You know, those kind of things. And we need to look at, we're the designated water provider for the Allyn UGA. We need to be looking at where the lines are going to go as the UGA increases in size.
So what about budget-wise and?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that you all were in agreement with this, and I can put together a budget for it.
Okay, I think it's necessary. We need
I don't
to-
think we need this immediately, and I was thinking what I might do is maybe plan it next year's budget.
Okay. Are you good with that, Ted?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, and then discussion on document management. That was basically what I had talked about in my report, and Ted and I talked about it earlier. I don't think there's any need to go any further with it unless one of you all want to.
Okay, I'm good with that. Anything else?
No, I don't have.
Okay. I think we're at public comment now. Okay, go ahead, and then I'm going to have Phil, because he wanted to say. Okay, Phil, did you want to go ahead and comment about trees?
And here we go with the sound again, too.
Uh-oh.
Let's get that. So,
He's talking, but we don't hear
Yeah,
you
we
yet.
don't.
Hang on.
We can't even see him.
Well, he may not have video yet.
he's not muted, so we should hear him.
Yeah. Let me turn on my side.
Okay, I think, yeah, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
I was just curious, how many people access the parcel where the danger trees are being cut down? Is there dozens of people going in there every day, or?
No.
I don't really understand that. I mean, I can walk you into any 2 acres of forest and I can find a dozen danger trees. You know, I mean, you only need to deal with danger trees if there's lots and lots of people going by them. So I didn't really understand that the need to take care of the danger trees if there's no active trail system or a pipe, or a park or people idly standing by. So that's my comment.
Great, thank you, Phil. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Just to clarify, the property has been closed to the public, so there is nobody up there that we're aware of, and there shouldn't be. So,
We're in
at
the
least-
process of making
In the
it.
meantime,
Yeah.
we're still in the process of taking
Yeah.
care
Yeah,
of it.
exactly.
Restart that.
Yes.
Okay, Brad. Okay.
So, taking off where Phil left off, maybe you want to post the property
with hazard signs or whatever, so at least the public's noticed in case they do go. Because I understand there is trails through there, and the public does use those trails. Okay, just so I understand public comment. Whenever we have public comment, we can pick any subject we, the public, want to talk about for our 3 minutes, if that's what it's going to be, correct?
Correct.
Great, thanks. Okay, second thing. I think my biggest concern here, since getting involved in the Port of Allyn, is that if the board's going to be in the water business for getting the consent requirement, that it makes sure it's spending ratepayers' money and not general fund money. That's my biggest concern. I think the port, everybody up there at the table here agrees with me that the statute requires that the cost be borne by those ratepayers. I think we all agree with that. So if that's the case, then the only question we need to figure out is that happening or not? Okay? And so that's my biggest concern. So when I see the vouchers being paid and I don't see monies like on the electric bill that runs the pumps on the well, I don't see that coming out of the water fund, that raises the red flag for me. Now, I've been in business for almost 40 years. Multiple companies, not Intel, but my own proprietorships, and been pretty successful. And I have found, with regard to input from my clients, I need to hear from them. I want to hear from the ones that are more critical of my performance than of the ones that are very praising of my performance, because that's the only way I can improve. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'd like to see this board change its mindset a little bit and embrace criticism. If you do that, then the people who are being critical will probably not be as critical because they'll sense a degree of a working relationship. So I just, I'll leave it with that. I think that works. I know it works in my companies, and it's been very successful for me. So I'd ask, and when I was a commissioner, it was very successful. And in fact, it allowed us to shut down the Port of Tahuya, all right, and which is what the people wanted. So they voted to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to clarify something there.
Yes?
Our water company operates in the black. The Port General Fund does not subsidize it in any way.
Thank you. Ken?
Completely different fund.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and this isn't a repeat of what I was talking about earlier. I just wanted to finish my comments from earlier. In the executive director's report, there was no mention of any public records request, and one of your attorneys provided me with a public records request from Mr. Greg Overstreet. I think that you folks might want to be aware of that. I have a history with him in regards to Belfair Water District, and as one of your constituents, I would suggest that you hold an executive session to discuss potential litigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jeff?
Oh, Jeff, thank you. Hi, Jeff. It's hard to see.
Let me put the sound back on.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Two things. One, thank you for addressing at least two of the three items I raised on the budget. I appreciate looking into that. And again, at some point, I think you need to address my dad's email into, the board with respect to evaluations. I don't have firsthand knowledge of the document. I understand it's dealing with the evaluation of, port commissioners and what have you. So all I ask is that the board take time to address it and at least, give some comment to my dad, who took the time to address what he felt was a shortcoming of the board. So appreciate that. Other than that, thank you much.
All right, thank you. Any other comment? Bonnie?
First about Mark Wadowich. He was an amazing guy, and if you go online, you can see the videos that he made of the opening of the Sergeant Oyster building. He was there, went through when we opened it, and then later he did 3 videos. Allyn back when, the Sergeant Oyster, and then think it was just a general one. And he did about over 100 hours of interviews of locals. And those are the North Bay Historical Society has that record now. And it's just amazing. He cut hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of interviews down to 10 short videos. And those have just been invaluable. He did a great job on that. He would also be out at Allyn Days beating the drum for us, and he just really did a lot for our project, and we will miss him a lot. We're working on the windows. I'm talking with Spruce Properties. Hopefully he or Sean or somebody can help us get them in. They said they could try to help. Of course, that depends on timing, but we have a lot of windows back out there. We're putting them back together, and we have a few that are going to have to be replaced, and I'm working on that one. But we are getting some positives from Sean and Spruce and saying, well, we hope we can. On the Army Corps permit, I talked with Joe Callahan.
Yeah.
He called me the other day. Now, this is kind of an ongoing thing because the Olympia Oyster had their project to replace their building. Part of their historic preservation through the Army Corps of Engineers, they had to direct some funding towards the Sergeant Building. Somehow, somebody at the Army Corps, and I got this direct, they put that together. They decided it was the same project because they were connected to Sergeant Oyster. There's a stipulation that they have to give us some money for historic preservation. They are working on getting them separated. I did call Olympia Oyster, and they were not able to give me a copy of the permit, so I went through Lance Lundquist at the Army Corps 106 process, and he's given me a copy of he's going to give me a copy of the permit. So, assuming there's nothing going on that holds it up, because there was some question about the dates of it, and I know Larry's been working on that, so that was kind of, he clarified a lot for me when I went through that thing. Hopefully it'll come through just fine. I am pursuing further funding to move ahead with the project. We got the siding and everything is all on, it's all ready. We're going to replace the doors and the windows, and then it'll be sealed from the outside. Then we can start on the insulation and the electricity, the whole replacement inside. And then finally the drywall. There's been a question on whether we would pour the concrete before or after the move. They're looking like we should do it before the move, because working over the water entails all kinds of stuff. As far as the port's water master plan, I think that's outstanding, because when we got the 300 acre feet, it was for the future of Allyn, and 300 acre feet was projected out at that point. When those run out, I'm sure you can get more because of the fact that we did get those. But that's going to be a challenge for somebody else. I like the paperwork that's posted online. All your paperwork, I found that online, and I think that's great that we have a chance to look through all of this stuff ahead of the meeting. And Allyn Days. I'm on that board too. Allyn Days is coming up. It's the third weekend in July, and there's lots of preparation being done for it. We're meeting like crazy, and I think it's going to be really good this year. We're only having it Saturday and Sunday. We're not doing much on Friday night. Just but anyway, I hope you're going to make it.
Bonnie, can I ask a question? Has the salmon group that was formed between the Port of Allyn, have they contacted anybody regarding space to put a display up and talk about what they're doing?
The salmon enhancement?
No.
No, Puget Sound. I mean the Hood Canal.
No.
It's with Great View.
It's a Case Inlet salmon.
No.
Okay. I did speak to Jason on Monday. Yes. Okay. And I will make sure we get something over there. But we'll need just a table, and we have some display information.
Great. We do have the Salmon Center is going to bring something over. I guess I could call it. They are going to have a display. I'm not sure what. Hopefully it'll be the touch tank. We are looking for someone who can do a bee display. Beehives that can do a safe thing, and show bees and everything. We're trying to find somebody that would do that. Everybody keeps saying, well, call this one, but we haven't been able to locate anybody yet. We're going to have a bouncy house, and we have cotton candy this year, and the little train's going to be there for the kids. And we're going to have a kids zone this year that's very specifically for the kids over there. We're going to do more volunteers we have, the more fun we can have with the kids. So, yeah. And I think that's it.
Okay.
If anybody wants to volunteer, we need volunteers.
I will be cooking all day Sunday.
You gonna cook, Ted?
Yeah, I'll be cooking Saturday with my team.
So we probably still need to find somebody to do oysters on Sunday.
Double check it.
If you want to take a break from all of the kids there, you'll have some fun.
Here you go.
You can watch the train.
You're kidding.
So, for the good of the order,
I just want to say, I thought Ted's salmon last year was killer good.
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping he'd do it again.
Yeah, it's not my recipe, but it's been around here for a long time. I just learned how to do it.
I wanted to know if maybe the board, if we ever sent anything to Mark Wodowich's.
No, I don't have any contact information for who.
Because I'll get that to you.
Okay.
for
If
Linda.
you'll do that, we can
Yeah.
send something right away.
Okay, I'll do that. I did walk the Sweetwater Park and saw the, like what Phil had said, been growing up here. Oh, hey, we have another public comment.
Just one question.
Okay.
See in this budget report, repair and maintenance of $16,000 in the water system.
Who can, Larry?
I didn't understand the question.
Can you repeat the question?
$16,000 in water repair.
It says water system repair.
Oh.
And maintenance.
Yeah, that was when the tank,
Oh, the pump,
the pump went out?
Yes.
That's what that was.
because of the pump.
Right. Just nosy rosy.
There was that,
Well,
and
that's okay.
then we had the water line break right after it,
Yeah.
right in front of the well house.
Okay?
You know, this makes some misunderstanding when I was here on the water system. And we funded that with the IEP funds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we could have just left it with that because it fell under.
Because that's exactly what it was for.
But to my knowledge, all of it was paid back to the general.
Yes, it
Yes,
was.
it is.
So there's.
That's right.
should be consideration.
Okay, gentlemen, I don't know your name. Yeah, please do.
My wife usually does this kind of stuff.
Okay, just
Allyn, 211 East Blackville, up the hill here. We park our boat down here.
perfect.
In the summer. So in regard to the parking thing, just hoping maybe we could get some passes for parking, because sometimes we take it out for the weekend, or sometimes we have friends and family come and stay the night, so.
I will give you my number, and you can just text me. I'm the one that's going to.
I want to keep that for now. Yeah, exactly, or not. We'll go for or not. How about that? Good, good, good. Just a couple other suggestions. Love living here. We use it often, obviously, since we park down there for 3-4 months of the year. Hoping for some pressure washing, rainy days, stuff out there. So
We're not allowed to do that, believe it or not. I'm
Yeah.
We're
sorry.
allowed to pressure wash. All right, there are environmental issues. It's not going to go down there with the rain, you know that.
Exactly.
Let's see here. Also, I don't know if you've ever considered gate access for down there. I don't know how many boats you have to pull up during the day that can go up the burgers or the roadhouse or whatever. You get no funds for it, but it's something to consider. Since they come in and use it for the day. Plus, we have a boat down there, so we have a little bit of security. Also, you have a comment?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
sounds good. And then, is there any ability in the future to maybe do online payment for our water bills? Since we're starting to work with checks at this point in time. And then, just, we're going to need to do executive sessions, I think.
Well,
It was
okay.
unforeseen.
Yeah.
I know, things happen.
And in regard to the gate, Larry has some comment about that because
Yeah.
we've gone down that road, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Go
know,
ahead.
if they left and paid for their mortgage before they went back to the boat, they'd get a code to get back in the gate.
Well, we can't put a gate up here because of the way the original dock was funded. It was funded by the Recreation and Conservation Office, and their rules say that it has to be open to the public. Because there's nothing we'd like more than to put a security gate here and out at the canal, but that's the situation we have with
Can they maybe use the dock? Still open to the public.
it. I don't know. That could be something to look into.
Yeah,
I don't know.
could.
And then the online payment of the water bills, we're looking at doing some changes to the website, and that's one of the changes we're looking at.
That's great.
And you can call the office and give us your credit card and we'll.
Yeah, we,
on it.
yeah, we can do that, and, you know, just bill your credit card.
Okay, Barry? Good point.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, good point. Something we could look at, I think. Yeah, because that's true.
Well, I'd like it for security, and that was part of what prompted the whole security camera situation. Was we wanted to be able to look at that stuff, and you know, if there was a problem, be able to figure out who did it. So.
I have a couple comments. Huh? Thank you.
It's nice to hear.
Thank you.
Very unforgiving.
Sure.
All
Go
right.
ahead. Commissioner
Alan, I
Jackson.
want to thank you for coming. I spoke to you and Gina about coming regarding the vote. And Travis, thank you for your comments. I mean, that's one of the, Alan and Gina for the last 2 years, and Leanne and Larry can contest, have been using more in the boat consistently down there. And the worst thing we want is the vehicle parked there. You know, the side's getting towed. Vandalism is the biggest thing, you know. But yeah, maybe we could look at that, the finger pier.
Yeah.
Putting a gate.
That's a thought, yeah.
And putting a code, so if somebody's mowing the boat, because even when I mow my boat down there, it's smaller than Alan and Gina's, but I still have concerns about people getting on the boat.
No, that's a real good idea. You know?
Or security's been probably the one reason we had loss of revenue with both North Shore and here. People just don't feel safe.
Yeah, and
More advanced facilities, and they feel secure because there's all those amenities.
Yeah.
That,
I know when I take
at
my
least-
boat, that
at least
I like
every
that.
2 years, there is an issue where somebody gets their boat really broken.
no, thanks.
No, if there's some kind of solution to that, I'd be all for doing that tomorrow.
Let's pursue it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a comment. I walked the Sweetwater Park today, and I saw those trees that were marked, and I found it kind of interesting because I've been raised around here, and some of those trees that are old and everything, if it ever does become, I mean, when it becomes a park, some of those trees were totally moss covered, absolutely beautiful, and has a story, meaning that it's important that kids know how trees grow, they die, moss grows, has extra, you know, nutrients for other critters. One of them was a tree that was pretty much used really well by woodpeckers, you know, but again, there's food. 2 trees had wood duck nest boxes on them that, you know, I mean, they're used, you know, so I don't know. I think for part of the education for our kids about how the forest works, I don't know if I would be taking some of those out. I did not see, by the way, that tree that is cut. Where is that located?
When you first walk up,
Yeah.
you go to the left, it's to the right.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I don't know how I missed it. Yeah.
I saw it when we were up there last week.
Okay.
But there are other trees that
Well,
Yeah, there's some that,
yeah.
that definitely need to
Yeah,
come
we're gonna
down.
take care of it.
Yeah.
Phil Wolf has his hand up.
Again, thank you, Phil. Go ahead.
Let me
Oh, sorry.
unmute him.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I had a comment again. I just, you know, one of the things I enjoy doing is watching on dogs. And you can hardly do anything. You know, you go to Port Orchard, you can't walk out on those docks. You go to Port Angeles, you can't do that. I mean, there's just a few public, marinas where you can do it. It's just very select. At the Port of Allyn, I would take my kids. We'd fish for bullheads there on, on the piers. I noticed that people fish off, the Port of Allyn again. I mean, they're not really catching anything, but that's not the point of fishing.
That's why they call it fishing, not
right, not catching. So I just hope some real discussion takes place before we have to go to installing gates. That's my opinion. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, Bonnie.
One more story. There was a question about these trees being dangerous, whatever the trespass signs. There was a suggestion of something saying this is happening. Years ago, over at North Shore, we wanted to swim in there. Somebody suggested we post something that says, swim at your own risk. And our attorney said, don't put that up, because what you're saying is you recognize it's risky when you put this up. So I would suggest that you not. No trespassing sign.
We don't have
You don't want
no
to say
trespassing, do we? We have
We have
just
it
no
Sweetwater
parking.
Park, so that's on.
Is it the no trespass? I thought it was just no parking.
Oh, at North Shore?
No, it's
at
Sweetwater.
Sweetwater.
Oh, Sweetwater? It says no trespassing.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
sign up there about the brush.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
a hazard. If you admit there's a hazard, I don't want to say you admit there's a hazard.
Yeah.
Because that's, at least that.
Yeah, what we-
If it was a hazard, then that's.
What we don't want is somebody just walking around up there and falling over something and us, having a liability on our
We've got
hands.
some work to do on that property,
Yeah, we've got work to do, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
and we're addressing it, and we're gonna work in that direction.
I agree with Judy, though, try to leave some of the older trees if they're not that hazardous, leave them standing, because it's natural habitat, it's a forest.
Yeah.
When you go out in the forest, you're taking on certain risks, you go walk down I-5, you have to take these things.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Are we move to adjourn at all?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second that.
Okay.
I'll second that motion. Did you, I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
Scratch my head.
Okay. Fair enough, I don't want to cut anybody off.
Okay,
Okay.
meeting adjourned.
I didn't see anybody else.
Thank you.
All right, I'll second that motion.
Okay.